we're here to witness naval aviation firsthand. Also tonight, he counted them all out. Now Brian Hanrahan counts himself in on a flight aboard a Harrier. Robert Elms breaks his solemn vow and flies charter. Fenella George on her way to flying solo, eventually. And meet the man with an ironclad stomach, Britain's aerobatic hopeful for the World Air Games. HMS Illustrious has been deployed most of the year as part of Operation Ocean Wave, involved in joint exercises with many navies around the world. But this far from home, self-defence is paramount.
Hostile 4201, believe, low level, strength 2.
Using their advanced early warning system, the observers on board the ship's Sea-King Whiskey helicopters have located enemy aircraft, a role that's being performed today by half of our complement of Sea Harriers. Whilst Sea Dart is primed in readiness for an impending attack, the remaining fast jets are launched as a backup. Illustrious's Sea-King anti-submarine helicopters are already deployed and assessing any possible threat from beneath. But as another Harrier's launched, the danger from above is being intercepted.
Section 1, splash 1.
Roger, splashed 1.
Going for the second.
Roger, clearing gauge on the second.
Roger, clearing gauge.
Splash 1, one enemy aircraft is down, but the remaining fighters still at large and closing fast on the support fleet and Illustrious herself. Goalkeeper, a fully automated gun system, is, as the name suggests, the last line of defence on board. But for the purpose of this exercise, something's about to slip through its net. Another high-speed attack, undetected by the radar system, leads to a direct hit.
Fire, fire, fire! Get him out, let's sort it out from here! Let's go, guys, let's go, come on!
Below decks, the ship's company is struggling to control the fire in a separate exercise. Their battles at last being won, and up above, the same is true.
Confirmed splash 1. This is Alpha Whiskey, Grand Slam, hostile 4201, resetting cap.
Code Grand Slam, this incident's over, but on a 7-month deployment, there'll be plenty more of those to come. The Sea Harrier will be the frontline fast jet aircraft of the Royal Navy well into the next millennium. It first entered naval service in 1980, and one testament to the skill of the Harrier pilot and the design of this classic aircraft will remain in the mind for a very long time.
I'm not allowed to say how many planes joined the raid, but I counted them all out, and I counted them all back. Their pilots were unhurt, cheerful, and jubilant.
I never thought that standing on that flying deck that one day I'd be flying in a Harrier itself. But then a lot of people never thought the Harrier would ever fly. It's an aircraft with a history of happy accidents.
The Ministry of Supply has now given permission to release the first films of the fabulous Flying Bedstead. Designed for experiments in vertical takeoff, the Bedstead has 2 jet engines mounted end-to-end. Their exhausts shoot the blast downwards and thus give the machine its upward thrust.
The problem for the aircraft designers was to turn what was little more than a scientific curiosity into a real flying aircraft, and then to find a use for it. Because for all the intellectual excitement about having a plane that did everything, what was the practical value of vertical flight? As with so many orphan ideas, it was the military who had the time and the money to experiment seriously. A precarious progress of stops and starts had by the mid-60s created the Harrier, the only high-performance vertical takeoff aircraft in the world. But this flying wonder was still regarded as a mere novelty, and certainly no match for the supersonic fighters of the day. Then its extraordinary versatility won over the US Marines. They bought it in 1968, and a year later the RAF formed their first Harrier squadron. They saw it as a ground support aircraft that, freed from conventional airstrips, could stay close to frontline troops. Happenstance catapulted the Harrier to a new role. The 70s defence cuts did away with the Fleet Air Arm's large aircraft carriers. only the Harrier could operate from the new pocket-sized carriers. The Navy created the Sea Harrier, which came into service in 1980. There was no other option. It would have to meet all the demands of seaborne air power.
What nobody anticipated was that the Harrier's extraordinary flying technique would turn it into a top-class fighter. And it was that technique that came to the fore in the Falklands.
At the time of the Falklands, we were very much dependent on dogfighting capability. And one of the things that a pilot likes to be able to have up his sleeve is to try to create a situation where an adversary will overtake him. By using the vectored thrust of the Harrier's engine, you can slow the aircraft down remarkably quickly. As soon as he begins to overtake you, you put the nozzles fully forward again, you pick up your speed, and then you shoot him down as quickly as possible.
The Falkland pilots became fighter aces and the inspiration for a new generation of pilots.
I was doing my O-levels at school, harking back now, and I remember it being on the news on those mornings when I used to go in for the exams, and it always stayed with me how well they performed. And when I came to join the Navy and the opportunity was there to fly the Sea Harrier, I needed no encouragement. That was it for me.
The upgraded Harrier, the FA-2, with a new radar and medium-range air-to-air missiles, will see the plane through a fourth decade. But the surprising gentleness of the hover remains its abiding feature. It stunned me as much in the cockpit as it ever did watching from the ground. Planes just aren't supposed to do this.
Queues, curly sandwiches, 5-hour delays and fraying tempers. We've all been there on a charter flight. Nothing arouses the wrath of passengers in quite the same way, as events this summer have proved.
4 years ago, I made a solemn promise. After a 7-hour wait amid the sweating multitudes at Malaga Airport, waiting for an aeroplane that I can only assume was somewhere in the Greek islands, I vowed that I would never ever again board a charter flight. Well, here I am at Gatwick Airport at a truly ungodly hour, about to queue up for a charter flight to Malaga.
In South America, they say that the buses don't have timetables, they have rumours. But am I right in believing that's also true of our charters?
Well, the letters I get from readers suggest that over the last 3 or 4 years, they've become increasingly unhappy with the way they're being treated by charter airlines.
Loads of nightmare stories.
It's the norm now to be delayed.
12-hour delay.
Delayed until 2 o'clock in the morning.
The flight was delayed to the day after.
One story, they said that the pilot they couldn't find him because he was drinking coffee.
We've used charter flights a lot in the past, and very much the luck of the draw, really.
Well, I think the charter airlines and the tour operators would say, well, you don't pay very much, you know. Well, they wouldn't actually say that, but I think they'd say that in a roundabout way, that you do get what you pay for.
But do you really want to pay for a service which is all too often delayed? And who's actually to blame for that?
One of the largest problems that we have is actually getting the passengers to the aeroplane through the terminal building.
So are they in the bar?
Well, sometimes a bar, duty-free, they spend a long time all over there for really.
So it's your fault. But actually the biggest problem is takeoff slots.
Slots at airports is becoming a very major problem in the charter carriers. We are not the first in the pecking order when it comes to getting the slots, and obviously we have to accept whatever we're given.
It's a problem they've got to sort out. You know, we're the customers, which we want to buy a decent flight at a decent time. Their job is to provide it. You know, their job isn't to come back into their heads and hands and say, oh my God, you know, it's a nightmare running a charter airline service. You know, that's your business, guys.
And their business relies on ensuring those planes spend the maximum time in the air.
We regularly try to get 3 rotations, that's short-haul flights, a day out of our airplanes. So they'll leave early in the morning. Again, the second wave leaves just after lunch, and a third wave at night. And that's the way it is. That's how we keep the seats at a reasonable price so everybody can afford to travel.
The tour operators and the charter airlines want to get as many people as they can on their planes and get the most money out of them. So inevitably the passengers suffered.
This is the team at Luton Airport trying to make sure that you don't suffer too much.
Please say what your locator is.
They track planes and crews and try to hit those precious takeoff slots, which sometimes they do.
And as you can see, it was scheduled to leave at 10:25. It actually left at 10:24, 1 minute early. When it comes off the rails, it's fairly spectacular. And then we have another division, which is the lady sitting at the end there, Brenda, who solves all the domestic problems for the passengers so that they're kept fully informed of what's happening and what we're doing to rectify the situation.
They know that whatever they do, whatever they've done in the past, you know, they're in charter airlines in recent years, have kept people waiting 24 hours, took 48 hours or more, stuck in the Algarve before they can get home. And people want to go to the Mediterranean, and they realise they have to go back and they have to buy a charter flight. So this is why the industry has been able to get away with so much for so many years. It's because we've got no choice.
Those who chose the same flight as me weren't complaining, though.
I think the service is superb for a charter flight.
More than impressed. I think they're fabulous.
We were an hour late taking off this morning.
Yeah, I think the captain explained that one quite well, though.
In fact, we had to make a late aircraft substitution, so the catering had to be moved across the airfield at Gatwick onto this aeroplane, and there was a minor technical delay that our engineers rectified before departure.
I have to say that the service today has been, well, pretty close to exemplary. There were no queues at the airport, check-in was really easy. The staff have been lovely at every stage. We were nearly an hour late taking off, but I feel a bit churlish mentioning that. No one else has complained. To be honest, I don't even think most people noticed.
And unfortunately, most people who fly to Malaga en route to the Costa del Sol don't notice that it's a brilliant, historic, thoroughly Spanish city, untouched by mass tourism. Return to the airport, though, and it's full of people queuing up to play the charter flight lottery. Win and you get a good service. Lose and it can go horribly wrong.
My flight here was so good that I was seriously contemplating giving up my vow never to fly on charters. But I've just discovered that my flight back, which is with a different airline, leaves here at 10 o'clock at night, but doesn't get into Gatwick until 1 in the morning, which means that it takes 4 hours instead of 2.5, because for some mysterious reason, it's going via Luton. I can definitely feel another vow coming on.
There can be few more hazardous tasks in aviation than flying on and off runways that are the smallest in the world, and they never stay still. It's tricky enough when the weather's good, but if there's a storm brewing or if the environment is hostile, it takes a special kind of nerve to fly naval operations. Julian Tutt now traces the somewhat precarious origins of naval aviation.
After the Royal Naval Air Service and the Royal Flying Corps combined to form the Royal Air Force in 1918, the Navy continued to operate aircraft under the guise of the Fleet Air Arm, which again became a separate identity in 1937. But during the Second World War, the Navy's workhorse was the Fairey Swordfish, or the famous old string bag. This particular aircraft is Lima Sierra 326, a Mark II Fairey Swordfish. It's operated by the Royal Navy Historic Flight, based at Yeovilton, and I must say one of the perks of this job is to be able to fly in a wonderful old aircraft like this.
When offered the patent to the Wright brothers aeroplane in 1907, the Admiralty felt it wouldn't be of any practical use to the naval service. By 1940, when a Swordfish night torpedo attack crippled half the Italian Navy in Taranto harbour, even the diehards were forced to admit that the Fleet Air Arm and the aircraft carrier were replacing the battleship as the fleet's most important asset. Pre-First World War experiments to fly aircraft off ships proved hazardous in the extreme. While they eventually achieved some success with takeoffs, landing back aboard required wholesale redesign. By 1918, HMS Argus, converted from an Italian passenger liner, had a large flat deck. It meant the bridge had to be lowered, which must have made steering the ship interesting. Many features developed then are still in use today, such as the aircraft lift. Takeoffs were assisted by steering into wind and a generous 500 feet of flat deck. Landings became more manageable, but the aircrew's danger was shared by the deck crew as they struggled to bring the machine to a halt. The ratings with the chocks look particularly apprehensive. They would have been as relieved as the pilots by the development of the arrestor hook, which is still in use on conventional carriers today. It was used by the British Navy until Ark Royal was withdrawn in 1978, when conventional fixed-wing flying ended. With the departure of the classic Buccaneers and Phantoms, the dramatic steam catapult launches were no longer required. The next big change in naval aviation was coming with the Harriers.
Well, I passed the medical, I've done the trial lesson. Here I am on my first full hour's instruction. Only 10 to go, and I should be on my own. But first I need to learn effects of control. That's how I go up and down, how I go left and right.
Now, if you look ahead, if I move the control column very gently back towards me, you'll see the nose of the aircraft starts to go up.
Yeah.
We describe this as a pitch, a change in pitch. If I now move the control column very gently away from me, you'll see the nose of the aircraft goes down. It pitches down.
I'm feeling more comfortable. I can be a pilot. So let's try turning.
Okay, now the ailerons are operated by the rotation of the control column. What I'd like you to do is simply rotate the control column to the left, and the left wing goes down, the right wing goes up, and the aircraft starts turning to the left. Now if I want to bring the wings level, I'll rotate the control column to the right with you still following me through, and to stop the rotation, control column neutral, and the wings stop rolling. Put your feet on the rudder pedals, but keep your hands clear of the control column. Okay.
This basic training went on for 3 days, and I notched up another 4 hours in my logbook towards going solo. Enthusiastic as you may be, costs at around £100 an hour can be a limiting factor.
Okay, now I haven't asked you if you had any questions so far. Any questions so far? Are you quite happy?
I'm just concentrating. As the hours increase, so does the amount of bookwork I'm given. Hands-on flying comes as a welcome relief.
Just climbed up a couple of 100 feet. Now, the way to correct that is by simply selecting a slightly lower nose attitude. This is all about attitude flying. It's the most important thing about flying, that you maintain an attitude.
Yeah.
So you want to keep the same gap between the top of the coaming and the horizon.
There's quite a lot of tweaking involved, particularly when it's a bit bouncy to actually...
Yes.
Confidence increasing, landings approaching. More news next week.
Well, we've actually also drifted slightly left of the direction I wanted to go.
You said I was doing really well.
Well, you were.
We're actually going up in the wrong direction.
But apart from that, it's looking wonderful.
HMS Illustrious is one of the Royal Navy's 3 Invincible-class aircraft carriers. This year she's acted as flagship during Operation Ocean Wave, a post-Cold War exercise designed to reacquaint the Navy to large-scale deployments on the other side of the world. But ships like this and their aircraft don't come cheap. Illustrious alone costs around 400 million and a Harrier 15 million. So why exactly does the Navy need them?
The first point is it isn't the Navy that needs them, it's the country that needs the carrier. We're a defence asset, not a naval asset, and we're here to serve what the Ministry of Defence and the government requires. It is the most flexible of all of our assets in defence. We can go anywhere in the world in international waters. We can fly anywhere without requiring host nation support. We can support operations at sea and over land, and therefore it's essential that we do have these aircraft carriers.
The prime asset is the FA-2, the Sea Harrier. Armed with the AMRAAM Fire and Forget missile system, it's the star of the naval aviation show. But the ship provides an essential supporting role. The carrier is a mobile airfield, but at only 200 metres long, a miniaturised version.
Hangar and 801 Squadron, you have no clearance to remove 05 from the jacks until completion of the ADEX. I'm the aircraft control room officer, and my job is to get the aircraft from the hangar to the flight deck, and vice versa, to meet the flying programme. It's a bit like a game of chess, actually. When you watch the flight deck crew in operation moving aircraft, it really is an art. You know, they can get it into a spot and there's only inches to spare, and they can do it every single time. They're the real sort of stars out there.
We're on our way up to the flight deck, the most hazardous area on this carrier. You run it. What's the most important thing you need to have to do that?
the most important thing really is experience, and you only gain experience through time in the Navy doing your own job.
So how dangerous is this flight deck? We see so many things happening all at the one time.
Yeah, well, yes, you've really got to have your wits about you, and as I said, that comes with time in the job. The fact that we've just come up on an aircraft lift leaves a big hole in the flight deck. Aircraft operating, burning and turning, rotors moving, jets taxiing up and down, vertical recoveries, running launches, everything, transport, you name it, we've got it on this flight deck, and everybody has got to have their wits about them all the time.
That includes the flight crew who propel these aircraft off the end of a deck-bound ski jump. It allows Illustrious to launch aircraft faster than any other Navy and permits the Harrier to carry a greater fuel and weapons load.
The limits we have for landing and takeoff are plus or minus 2 degrees in pitch and roll, which can look quite significant when you're sitting in the cockpit. So all you do is you sit on the centre line, you get the green light from Flyco and the green flag from the FBO saying the ship's ready to go, then it's up to you to pick your moment. The idea is you slam the throttle from about half power as the deck is just pitching down from its apex. The idea being, by the time you've gone down the deck, and the time you leave the deck you're doing about 80, 85, perhaps 90 miles an hour, it's gone down and it's on its way up. So you're going away from the sea. Sometimes you do mistime it, which causes a bit of consternation on the bridge.
Occasionally, congratulations replace consternation after a happy landing such as this. For one rookie at sea, it's the culmination of 5 years of training, and watched by his colleagues from 801 Squadron, he's emerged all smiles.
It was my first deck launch and deck landing off the ship. Done it plenty of times from dry land with a simulated ramp, and coming back to vertically land, but never off of such a small platform. As you probably see from the film, it was a bit twitchy. For my first one, that was more of a psychological input from me. Actually, hovering alongside the ship is a lot easier than hovering back on dry land, because all the references that you used to hover with by looking out from side to side are a lot closer. So you've got the superstructure of the ship much closer to the aircraft, so it's quite easy, really.
What was the most difficult part of it in comparison to the landings that you had done on land?
Thinking about it before I came back to do it.
Before he starts thinking about the next one, Jason's FA2, one of 6 Harriers on board, will have descended back into the hangar below decks to be stored and maintained by a backup team of some 275 men and women. Some of them joined the Navy with a science or engineering degree, but all of them have since undergone specialised training. What they have to learn for themselves, though, is working at sea. Down here, the ship's company don't get weather beaten, but there are drawbacks: intense heat and seasickness. A life on the ocean wave is sometimes not that much fun. The ship's Harriers and helicopters aren't the only aircraft engines that require constant attention, for deep down beneath the surface of the waves are 4 Olympus turbines. They're the same engines which thrust Concorde into the sky and which now power Illustrious through the oceans of the world, though not quite at the speed of sound.
Her Sea King helicopters, though, can move quickly, and 2 days before she sailed majestically into Portsmouth last week, 4 of them had been involved in a daredevil rescue in the Bay of Biscay. In force 9 winds whipping up 50-foot waves, the highly skilled crews winched the Newman family to safety from their battered yacht, despite the overly close attentions of a P&O container ship that was trying to help.
But unfortunately, because of the mountainous seas and the wind, the container boat actually ran us over while we were on the yacht. It dragged us down the side and under the bow, and snapped a fair bit of the rigging off, and that was what I thought was the hairiest moment. I thought we were in deep trouble there.
The Newmans had lost everything, but were just grateful to be alive after one of the most difficult rescues the crews had known. A dramatic end to 8 months at sea.
I think, the only pure form of powered flight. There's no other reason for doing it. It's purely for its own benefit. I think I've got rather caught up in it, so yes, I spend all my time and all my money doing it. I've always enjoyed turning things upside down, seeing the world whiz round in different sort of attitudes, and it's a big challenge. I find it very difficult to do absolutely accurately. my Russian trainer Nikolai Timofeyev says, aerobatics is hard, no excuses, which is actually about the size of it. This aircraft was made by the Russian company Sukhoi. This is a purpose-built aerobatic aircraft, built almost without consideration to budget, using all the high-tech kit material like Kevlar, titanium, carbon fibre, etc., with a design team that built the perfect aeroplane. It's very hard on the body with all the high G, and you have to concentrate under high G. It generally gets pretty hot in there. I think it's actually hard work. But having said that, I do enjoy the whole flight, the atmosphere, and if you fly well, it's a great achievement. The World Air Games for aerobatic pilots is going to be the European Championships, and will be down at Antalya, along with the gliding aerobatic people. I am it. I am the British aerobatic team this year. There are other pilots that have qualified for the team, but they've not decided to go for one reason or another. I'm the dedicated one, I guess.
Journey's end for us for the moment, but our story of naval aviation doesn't quite end there. Many thousands of miles away, they're already working on a new aircraft which will eventually replace the Harrier, the Joint Strike Fighter. And in a later programme, we'll be taking a look at how tomorrow's war in the air will change over the next few years. But from HMS Illustrious, it's goodbye, and we'll see you next week. Join us next week when we'll be flying down the Grand Canyon, and if you're a cricket goer, watch out. David Gower gets reacquainted with a tiger moth.
Next tonight, the return.